So to get us started, I'm going to turn things over to Paul to introduce our first topic, why protein matters more now, and how the shift is shaping the way we look at sire selection. So Paul, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Krista, and good morning, everybody, and good morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
The dairy market, Amanda, it's always evolving, and our breeding goal then needs to keep up and even get ahead to where the market's going to be in a couple of years, simply because of how long it takes to make that shift genetically if we need to select differently in our cows. And even that first generation, it's already a 3-year project, right? So, and just to provide a bit of background too, I recall a time when we selected primarily for protein yield and actively selected bulls that decreased fat percent. For those old enough like me, I mean, Aerostar was a bull from that era. And for years now, though, we focused almost exclusively on, in our production goal, at least on fat yield. And much of the gain recently is also coming from selecting for fat percent. So fortunately, protein yield and protein percent comes along with fat generally, but maybe not as quickly as if we could also select for protein specifically. So in any case, to start us off, Amanda, do you have some background data for us that can help producers with us today understand better why they're being asked by groups like BCDA and other milk boards and the processing side to bump up our efforts on protein?
Yes, good morning. Hello, Paul. Hello, everyone. So yes, protein consumption has steadily increased both globally and in Canada over the past few decades, driven by the population growth and raising incomes and changing dietary preference. So several new high-protein milk-based products are driving the increasing milk protein consumption in Canada, especially as consumers are seeking more convenient and functional and health-focused options. Also, hospitals are using a lot of those products for patients and infants that need a higher nutritional value. So global protein consumption has risen by 40% since 2000. And in Canada, the market is projected to grow from 517 million in 2024 to 768 million by 2030. So what happened, it is the last decade or more, is that the industry has put a lot of emphasis on fat improvement, what means that the producers don't need to ship as many liters as the processors need more liters or volume for protein growth. So hence, we need to focus on protein in our breeding program too, alongside with fat kg.
Well, that's a really interesting synopsis for where the market is, and I'm sure population growth is participating in that increase as well. But can you talk about, from a producer standpoint, how that translates to modifications in terms of how they're customizing breeding goals and indexes to sort through sires?
Yes, so producers are starting to put more weight into the mating guide for protein, so it's for more volume. But we are also not giving up on fat weights, bringing their criteria for the bulls. We also look into the protein kg and the percentage of protein. So for example, if we're having two options that fit their criteria, and one is with higher protein, we go for the higher protein. I also have customers looking for the highest protein options and selecting from those ones that we're gonna add to the breeding program. So the new LPI formula brings 40% of the product for production and including 24% for fat and 16% on protein, but with no weights on milk. So what we're doing is adjusting the weights on the mating guide for fat and protein and adding the percentage for milk as well. The processors will be happier, I think, and with the chains, as they are looking for more volume and protein. It does not mean that they don't need the fat, but it's because they still do, but it's because they want more protein as well.
So then if you take a look at some of your leading herds, can you give a bit, maybe an example of how or where they're at in terms of their protein, or you do have their protein gains over the last few years? And, has protein moved up similarly to fat? And I guess this slide shows that.
Yes, so that is an interesting question. And looking over here at one of our herds at the slide, like you can see, so this herd genomic test the whole herd and has been actively selecting the animals for high fat, kg. So you can see that it's also increasing in their protein kg. So you can see in the graphic how much it increased over the years and how much it is their average for protein. Right now, even with the summer and the hello?
You're good, Amanda.
Okay, I thought that I heard something. Sorry. So right now, even with the hot summer and the hot days, their average milk yield is 41 kg with 4.3% of fat with 3.3 of protein. So I believe that with adding more emphasis now for protein, we're also going to be able to increase even more the kg for protein and see a significant increase in the future with the heifers that are coming.
And that to me is it's really interesting when you look at this slide too, because you see on this particular herd, when you look at cows relative to heifers, there's a 26 kilogram lead that the heifers have over the cows, but on protein, it's 15 kilograms. So we're disproportionately making gains on fat relative to protein. So maybe that's where we can focus next. So then there are some specific goals that you're incorporating into breeding plans for your customers to address this.
Yes, so not all fat leaders are protein leaders too. So training customers to start looking specifically at the protein leaders too and selecting for a combined fat and protein, it's one option. But we need to be a little bit careful with both together because of the super high fat bulls available in the market right now. For example, the highest one is almost 200 kg for fat. So some bulls that may not be that well known but that are protein leaders are Dripping and Preston, both right at 100 kg for protein. Zasberilla turned out to be a really high protein bull with the highest daughters for protein on some herds, and he's now a proven bull. So a couple pooled options as well are right up there. So Producer P and Enjoy PP.
So I guess another question in this focus is more on, whether we're going to get our gains on protein entirely on selecting for protein deviation. But are you also advising some of your producers to focus more on milk yield in their sire selection?
Yes, that's a good question. So it is hard to get protein by just selecting for high fat and protein deviation. So I think the focus on protein will lead us back to selecting for more milk as well.
Okay, that's great. And then are there any other strategies that you would recommend as producers start to focus more on protein?
So since we haven't really been selecting for protein for the last 10 or 20 years, genomic testing your herd will help identify the best families for protein, ensuring we use those families to generate our replacements from using sex semen as a strategy or even like embryo production. It is a good idea. So genomic testing will help identify the best females already in your herd, since we haven't actively selected for protein at times that the highest females are already in the milking group. So if we go back, we're going to be able to find them. And genomic tests will also give you a valuable information on A2 genes and BB. So my assumption here is that if protein will become more important in the marketplace, soon the importance of the quality of the protein will increase along with it.
That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Yeah,
You're
thanks,
welcome.
Ben and Paul. So thanks for walking us through why protein's becoming more of a hot topic in the dairy industry and what that means for sire selection. Of course, higher protein yields only make sense if the cows producing that milk are built to last. Longevity, functionality, and structural soundness are what keeps these cows in the herd and profitable for multiple lactations.